Today, I want to welcome Craig Plescia, who is the CEO of Plescia Construction and Development. He's based in Morristown, New Jersey, has over a couple of decades of experience in construction management, and general contracting. I'm just delighted to have you on the Edge of Success podcast today, and so I'm glad you can be with me for a little bit.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. You know, Craig, when I meet with someone, I always like to learn a little bit about their background. Tell folks, if you would, what kind of caused you to get in this business, maybe some of your experiences, that kind of thing.
I left college and went to law school for a year, so I just sort of ran through in my own head like, all right, who do I know it's a millionaire out there? It's either construction or finance at the end of the day, and my family owns a pretty substantial size commercial roofing and crane operating and rigging company out of New Jersey, and I said, you know what, finance seems a little staunch. Let me go into construction. We were throwing fists at each other on a roof one day, and I said, maybe this isn't the best thing. And I applied for an ad off a Craigslist ad in 2004 and didn't realize I was applying to the number 2 interior contractors in Manhattan at the time until very recently. I was managing director, focused on the New Jersey office as well as a bunch of New York-based work. I grew that New Jersey office to like $200+ million a year, and left and basically ended up on a little bit of a path, but started Plescia Construction about 3 years ago. Smaller firm out of the gate. I'd say right now, this year we'll probably close on 35 and 40 million this year, doing work across all sectors, from retail to office interiors to a ton of hotel work, industrial, food processing. I mean, you name it. I tell people all the time, we'll pretty much touch anything unless it's a nuclear power plant. And then I'm probably going to say, hey, thanks, but no thanks. That's not in our wheelhouse. We have offices in New Jersey, where I'm sitting right now, in Morristown. I have an office in Manhattan. I have 2 satellite offices in both Houston and Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And yeah, I mean, things are going great so far, so good. Tons of bids in the pipeline right now. It's a little weird economy-wise out there for who's saying yes or no once a proposal goes in, but we're growing pretty steadily. And I guess beyond that, if you want to know the man behind the company type thing, so I used to be pretty wild into more extreme sports out there. A licensed skydiver, I'm a pilot, fixed wing, done a ton of helicopter training but didn't complete my license. Got really into rock climbing, which sort of pushed me into mountaineering, took me to climb Mount Everest in 2018.
Yeah, well, sounds like you're kind of a go-getter. I love that about you. Extreme sports, and you know, building a business is a challenging thing, as you well know.
Yeah.
I find when someone gets into an industry or a business, you don't love everything about it, but there are also some things you love. You know what? This is kind of what lights me up. This is what I really love about what I do.
I'd say I love growing something from scratch. That's something I've built and set up in the ways that I see go best for general contracting in the commercial world out there, and cutting the fat of big corporate America, which when I was at the larger firm really got in the way of progress a lot. So streamlining everything, making sure there's policies and procedures in place, but keeping it fluid to be able to react on a dime for a client's needs out there. That to me is success at the end of the day. So growing something that just can shuck and jive to whatever a client asks for on a job or a build as fast as humanly possible, and sort of getting to the finish line as expeditiously and cost effectively as possible. That gives me a great sense of pride, because I've seen and been with companies that don't have the bloat, that are super lean but literally have no procedures in place, and you're basically like on a wagon with a bunch of wild horses pulling you through a job site. But I've also seen how corporate America can just kill a company.
Yeah, so you've had a wide spectrum of perspectives. That's a good perspective. I also know that when you build something and grow something, you bump into challenges. What are some challenges in your space that you see on the horizon, or maybe you've overcome in the past?
I'd say the biggest challenge of a year 3 general contractor in the commercial world is just cash flow. So taking jobs with enough of a margin out, a gross, let's say, that hovers between 12 and 15%, to a net that's around 3.5% to 5%. And obviously, the smaller you are, the larger end of that spectrum it is, and as you grow, that gets leaner. So you're operating on very tight margins out there, and making sure, like, when you're cutting numbers to win a job, that you don't hurt yourself and that payment terms are acceptable, and then actually getting, like, that money in the door from clients a lot of times is just the ongoing sort of struggle until you hit that $150 million range where there just becomes a churn of everything sort of going out the door, coming in the door, and you could sort of operate on cruise control. I wouldn't say it's been a problem yet at this company. It's just something I've just been very mindful of. I never want to be sweating payroll, like always leaving a certain amount of backlog of cash in the bank to make sure if the world got turned upside down in some sort of terroristic disaster out there, that I could still operate for a decent length of time and service our clients without having to go out and sort of beg for cash.
Yeah, that's super important. I mean, cash flow in your line of work, and so I certainly get all that. As you think about your business and your industry, what are some potential opportunities that you see on the horizon out there that you're keeping your eye on and maybe you've already started to lean into?
So growth right now in the commercial construction industry has fallen away from commercial offices. Developers are out there building pre-builds, trying to lure people in for an ease of entry into an office space, and it still exists, but it's not to the level it once was. The sectors that we're focusing on that are really seeing growth out there, industrial, it's been running strong since the COVID years. It had a little bit of a lull more recently, but that just depends on the geographic area you're in. Hospitality is on fire. I've written a bunch of recent articles on this. Apparently what is driving hospitality to still thrive out there is cheap airfare. Mind-blowing that that's the case, but the ability for both the business community as well as people on like leisurely vacations out there to go from A to B for cheap, stay in a hotel, and do what they need to do for a cost-efficient, sort of effective manner out there, like lead you into the Marriotts of the world, the Sheratons of the world and whatnot, as well as the high-end places. So we were just doing work at the Gramercy Park House in New York City, as well as like NH Collection in New York and various other large upscale hoteliers out there. And it's still booming, to be honest with you. They're focusing on different types of amenities, I'd say, than maybe 10 years ago for the remote workforce to have a place to connect a laptop, work on Wi-Fi efficiently that maybe won't be in their room, let's say, a little conference center downstairs. That sprung up a bunch and sort of caters to what people are looking for out there. And retail, especially like the high-end retail, like if you're buying a Louis Vuitton bag for your wife, you want to touch that $7,000 bag before you pull the trigger on that and drop the credit card on the counter. Those guys are still doing something pretty much left and right out there. So like Eddie Bauer recently just went into financial issues on their end. We were doing a ton of work with them in PacSun over the years. But the high-end guys are still cooking out there. I mean, Gucci right now is on the market for commercial office space in New York in the tens of thousands of square feet range. Like, it's a good indicator for the times ahead. So,
yeah,
fingers crossed it keeps up.
Sounds great. As you look back over your journey, and obviously you're still younger yet, and hopefully we'll have many years to build and grow. But as you think a little bit about it, what are some things that you feel like you've kind of learned? Maybe you didn't know initially, but as you've gone, you know, everybody gets kicked around a little bit. You make some mistakes or you learn from others' mistakes, hopefully. What are some insights that you could share that other people in your space could learn from?
I would say it probably has most to do with sales and business development and the amount of time you'll put into people that will just keep sort of taking type thing versus the person you don't think is ever going to come through with something out of left field comes through with a 100,000 square foot project out there, or just what avenues you have to get into in order to get your name out there and get that bid flow going. I mean, I've put billboards on sort of larger interstates in New Jersey. I've focused on my SEO tactics out there right now, have resulted in like 4 to 5 bids a week coming in, and it's a good hit ratio on them too. What people forget about in our industry, because it's, I want to say, a bunch of old curmudgeons out there that still think taking that one broker to lunch is going to be the shoe-in ticket for everything. You have to remember those 20, 30, or early 40-year-olds are living and dying by this. They Google commercial general contractor and the city name they're going to look and do work in, and if you're on that page one and you have a decent website that showcases stuff properly and is catered to their target, you're going to get a phone call. It may not be the warmest of leads out there. It's them coming to you with something, but you have to take that seed and add water to it and watch it grow type thing. But it gets your foot in the door in a lot of situations out there.
Yeah, it's always great when they're coming to you too, versus you trying to chase them.
Yeah, it's like investing in the stock market, passively letting stuff find your door.
Yeah. One last question here. As you think about your career and someone was coming in, maybe they're in their 20s, and they're saying, I really like what I am hearing from Craig, and I'm thinking about maybe looking into this industry. I laughed a little bit about your relationship with your dad, starting kind of working for your dad. I always say when you have family, it's either going to work or it's not going to work. There's usually not any in between, and you learn pretty quickly. But what would be one key piece of advice if they're considering in your space, in your industry? What would be one key point of advice that you might give to them?
I sort of explain this to a bunch of younger 20-year-olds that may be either in the trades or sort of trying to figure out what they're looking to do in their life all the time. And what I tell them is like, look, construction, you can make a lot of money in it. And as you scale, the numbers astronomically get larger very fast in the grand scheme of things. If you have a good brain on your shoulders and you're not scared of working to an insane level, it's almost like going into finance without the staunchness of finance, I'd say, because you're managing money. I almost feel like even though I didn't complete law school, I am a lawyer because my life's in contracts. But if you have the brains and the work ethic and this drive to sort of, I don't want to say like kill yourself, but kill yourself from the age of 22 until like 37 type thing, you could set up your future and make a very handsome living doing this. And what I tell people all the time too is like, look, if you work for me, you may hit a point where I'm not going to be able to pay you what you can go out and get on your own. Or maybe if you go to like a Turner or a Skanska where there's thousands upon thousands of employees and like, hey, look, there's no cap on salary if you're the rainmaker that you potentially could become. But like, the windfall is tremendous. You just have to have the grit to get through the knowledge base stage. Ways, and you know what, nothing's changing, and the same thing is going to go for an architect and an engineer. So if you've got that sort of drive to want to learn and analyze everything, whether that's how a wall gets constructed on a job site or how an estimate goes together, if you piece together all these parts of a puzzle in your head and you learn that whole process and you're aggressive about it, like the world's your oyster in this field.
Well, great advice, Craig. I'm sure folks will benefit from that a great deal. Yeah. Listen, if someone wanted to get up with you, learn more about your company, and perhaps even consider doing some business with you, what would be the best way that they could connect with you?
I'd say go into our website, which is plescia-cd.com, Plescia-cd.com. On there, you'll see contact info, phone numbers, emails. What's funny, everyone thinks I'm nuts, but every one of those emails, whether it's numerous people on them, but I am always involved with the routing of the emails that come in the door of the company over here. And I'm probably one of the most responsive people you'll ever meet in your life, where I don't let anything sit for more than an hour or two. Like if I go to bed at night with an email flagged as unread in my inbox, I'm having an anxiety attack type thing. So, I mean, reach out. Ask me any questions you have. Happy to look at any projects, potentially if you're looking to develop something, do cost analytics for you, logistics, stuff like that. I mean, look, you never know when that one sort of toe ekes in the door, what could turn into a great relationship. And we're all about relationships over here. If it's up to me, I'd do business with the same 10 people for the rest of my life, and that would be it. And we'd all retire fat and happy.
Well, listen, I appreciate so much your time and really good, solid information and value to the listeners. And I just want to thank you for taking time to be with me today.
Absolutely.